Hi, I'm Dr. Gerald Deas. Welcome to Health Center from Downstate Medical Center. Hospitals, security, people coming and going, students coming and going, metal detectors, all these kind of things that are happening in public schools, even public schools. Can you imagine? Pretty soon it'll be a little kindergarten, going through a medical detector and things like this. But it's true and it's real. It's a whole change in our environment and our social environment today throughout the world. It's all change. The trustworthiness is not there anymore of who's who and what they can do if they're angry. And of course, anger is, most of the time, it starts it all off with its prejudice and things like this. But in our hospital here at Downstate Medical Center, we have to deal with so many varieties of people coming and going, whether it's patients, students, doctors, just anybody, visitors and things like this. And these things have to be looked at very in a sensitive way of who might cause a problem. You could tell almost from a person entering the hospital whether they might be causing a problem. Or would cause a problem just by their attitudes and things like this. And so security is a big thing here at all the hospitals, but certainly at Downstate. And we have a experienced person in that force of policing and understanding the whole personalities of folks and guards and things like this. And he runs a large department here, which is quite a responsibility when it comes right down to it. If things happen, it goes to him, not to even the one who did it. It goes to him because he's the one that has to keep his eye on all of this, not just one thing. And this is our great officer here, head of the security here, Thomas Dugan.
Hello, Dr. Deas. How are you?
So nice.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh man, I tell you, knowing you all these years that I've been here, just seeing you walk down the hall, you are active on foot all day long. But before we get to you and your work here at the hospital, just a little bit background of policing. Give us just a little background what it took you even to become here as our head of this security force. I mean, you started off as that maybe street policeman.
I joined the New York City Police Department in June of 1967 when I got out of the Army, when I was discharged from the Army. And there was a military class that was put in of 200 of us who had come back from service.
Right.
And I was almost immediately sent to Crown Heights to the S.U.N.Y precinct.
I see.
And I did foot patrol. And from there I went to the 77th precinct, which at the time was on Schenectady Avenue and Atlantic Avenue. And again I did foot patrol in the 77. And after that, I went to the Tactical Patrol Force. It was a group of people that responded to civil disturbances and crime problems in different precincts, and I was there for 3 years. After that, accident investigation, I passed the test for accident investigation, and I went to highway, to motorcycle, and highway patrol.
Oh, okay.
And then I made sergeant. And I worked in the 6-1 precinct, the 6-0 precinct, the 6-7 precinct, which we're in now. Then I was promoted to lieutenant, and I went to an investigations unit in Manhattan, and I retired from there after 30 years in the service.
Wow, that's quite a...
Had a short hiatus.
That's right, yeah.
7 years, at which I raised my granddaughter. I had a lot of fun doing that. That was very enjoyable.
Right.
And then this opportunity came up, and I applied for it. And after a number of interviews, they offered me a job here, and I've been here ever since.
And how many years is that now?
Almost 10 years now.
All right. Well, I tell you, seeing you walk down the hall every day, looking at everything, peripheral vision, straight ahead, up and down. Being a foot patrolman must have taught you a lot on how to handle people, number one.
Right, dealing with people.
The sense of dealing with people, and that's so important because sometimes people are promoted at different levels and they never had that street experience of how you're going to enter a conflict resolution.
That's we didn't call it conflict resolution back then, but we learned that We learned to deal with people and their problems. As a police officer, we rarely met people under good circumstances. When there were favorable circumstances, they didn't need the police department. There was no. We always we tended to meet people at their worst.
Yes.
Or under great stress.
Yes.
When problems had just pushed people to the edge of acceptance.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I would be. I learned from that. I learned how to look at a person and look in their eyes, and you learned how to deal with it. You learned how to help them.
Right.
I found that, and most police officers did. You could, if you could help, and I always taught this to my recruits. If you could help, never miss the opportunity to help.
That's right.
Never miss the opportunity. When you have a chance to do something good for somebody, do it. It's going to come back to you.
Oh yeah.
Tenfold, like the Bible says, it come back to you tenfold.
Well, my cousin was a cop up in Harlem, on 125th Street, on patrol, and never got in a car, but he walked from one end of 125th to the next, and everybody knew my cousin Sam Deas. Sam was the cop's man, and everybody loved Sam because he didn't do things. He got things straight, but they would respect him when he spoke, and he didn't have to. He didn't have to speak in a demanding way. He would almost go up and say, "No, that's not right."
Yes. And what's wrong with that?
That's right.
What's wrong with that? You could diffuse a situation. There were times you'd be called upon by yourself to bring order and sense to large numbers of people.
Sure.
And some people, within the minute they opened their mouth, trouble started.
That's right.
They had no. There was nothing they could resort to. You couldn't. You couldn't get down. And then there were other people, and I like to try and do this, who could talk to people, who could understand, and actually, if you could get people to understand and do what you wanted to do in the first place along the line, you achieved your position as your place as a police officer. You calmed the situation. Perhaps you arrested somebody. You got an aided case, or somebody else to medical attention. It was a great learning experience for me, and I try to apply that here.
Right. Well, you can tell that because I think that in trying to get your officers on one line of thinking of what you're just saying, of that sensitivity.
You brought up a point before about I'm responsible.
That's right.
I have one of the best staffs in the State University Police Organization. I have it. I'm very fortunate.
Oh yeah.
In the people I have as supervisors and the officers that we've selected.
Right.
Since I've been here, we've trained the officers who come to work for us, the State University police officers, train at the New York City Police Academy with the recruits. They train as a recruit for the New York City Police Department.
Oh, that's great.
And when they graduate, they come to us.
Right.
I get a very sound product because I wish you could see the academy training. You know, one of these days I'm going to ask if you could see. It is such a positive. The newspapers like to bring things up.
I know, sure.
But if you saw what they do and how they do it, you'd be very impressed with the.
Well, that's the same way.
Their training and performance.
Sure. Well, that's the same way with doctors. I mean, you don't become a doctor in 4 years. You become a doctor after learning a lot of experiences. The touch of a person. Just placing your hand on somebody's shoulder in a gentle way is much different than grabbing them by the arm. Or even saying something that will make them feel that you're going to be forceful,
It's much easier to persuade somebody calmly and reasonably than to fight them. And you once you realize that, most people are only looking for help.
Well,
and if you provide the help.
Well, I went to PS 26 on Gates and Ralph Avenue in Brooklyn, and there was a Captain DiMartino of the detective, head of the detectives.
That was the 79 precinct.
The 79th precinct.
79th precinct.
And I said, I wanted to be a cop. I said I wanted to be a cop. In fact, I wanted to be an FBI man. And so people said, why do you want to be an FBI? man, you know. But I wrote, at that time, I wrote Hoover a letter telling him, now here I am, a 13-year-old writing Hoover,
Right.
of the J. Edgar Hoover, a letter of how to become an FBI man. And J. Edgar Hoover sends me a personal letter back, signed by J. Edgar Hoover,
That's wonderful.
telling me how I could become a FBI person, you know. But those kind of things go back in my mind, and I think, but why I say Captain DiMartino, because he was always around, and he was a Italian or
Right.
captain, but I identified with him and what he was doing of policing, because in those days we had gangs, very severe gangs,
Right.
back in the 40s and things like this.
Local gangs.
Local gangs.
Local street gangs.
Local
There were
street gangs.
One block, one
That's right.
corner. That
Yeah,
type of,
rough stuff going on, you know.
They had the same thing where I
Yes,
came from.
26, right. But anyhow, but getting back to your position here, and how you have to police people can bring anything into a hospital. If you can, I mean, I look at in Israel and different places where
Right.
people have people with body bombs on themselves,
Yes.
blowing people away.
Yeah.
You know, I think the thing that's blowing people away now is the bed bug, though.
That is, it seems to get a lot of news. And first, before I start,
Right.
it would have been a shame if you never became a doctor, because that is your calling. God meant you to be a doctor. But how do we do security here? We watch the comings and goings of people in and out of the institution at all our entrances, because we're not just a hospital. We're a research center, an education, a medical school,
Sure, yes.
business offices,
Surely.
various specialty units. We have to be observant. We've taught our people, and we've increased the number of surveillance cameras from almost none to over 400 in the 10-year period I've been here. We watch people. That's what I was talking about, looking at people's
Observation.
eyes. We have a very good relationship with our community.
Right.
Right?
Okay,
we
that's
work
good.
we work closely with our community. We have similar needs that they have. They want to raise their families and have a safe and secure neighborhood. And
Surely.
we want to do our
Surely.
business and raise our families and have a safe and secure neighborhood.
Surely.
So the two of them dovetail together, and
That's
we
right.
we provide.
And they're part of your extension, because
Right.
you take the man that's selling fruit outside.
Right.
If he likes you, he might even come to you and tell you, I saw something suspicious.
Yes.
Or the person who's selling roti. All these kind of things,
Yes.
they're there
Yes.
as your extension of your eyes and ears.
Yes, they are.
You
That's
know?
all. That's what I mean by community involvement.
Sure.
And we've had people who we haven't had a terrorist, a severe terrorist threat. We had 9/11. 9/11 changed everything for you, for me, for everybody. 9/11 changed the entire attitude and atmosphere. And we in New York City were the ones who took the brunt of it. I can still remember the particles falling down from the collapse of the buildings, falling onto the roof and the lawns here at Downstate.
You're right.
Sure,
yeah.
we can't lose that vigilance, but we don't at the same time wish to create a
police state
type of atmosphere where we can't live our lives, because then actually the people who did it have won. They've changed our lifestyle.
Surely, of course.
We have to be vigilant. We have to be on target. We're very careful. That's why we go through the ID cards. Why we require you to wear an ID card when you're in the premise. It's why we give passes. We require identification. We contact the people you're going to visit.
Sure.
For the most part, there are other locations where there's different procedures that are followed.
Surely.
The officers are trained to look for people.
Well, I imagine that just surveillance of visitors must be unbelievable surveillance there, because a visitor can come in with anything. When you think about it.
Yes.
And you haven't had any, or even a baby being kidnapped, for example, out of a.
Well, that's all. You hit that very. We had we have an infant abduction system, and which we're currently enhancing. But the infant abduction system marks each child with electronic surveillance equipment. We have, if one of those went off, I turn off the elevators, the stairs, the doors. We seal this place down.
Right. Yeah.
And we search for the baby, and we can search by the surveillance equipment that is.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. That gives people.
I don't know how you could, in today's day and age, we've had instances where people, women, lonely women, have come and indicated we believe to be a need for a baby that they couldn't have either biologically or some other, and we hurriedly remove them from the premises. We take it we have a very responsible view as far as the safety of the people, children in particular, but every patient while they're here is while they're in the hospital is our concern that they be safe from harm.
Yes. Right.
We have at times the person in the next bed may have a problem with a visitor.
Surely.
Where does their rights begin and the patient next to him's rights begin, so that you can't conflict between the two? Again, we're back to the civility and how the nurses address things and the doctors and whether they call us along the line.
Surely. What about, like, being a medical school too? Of course, we have medical students sometimes will get very depressed, and you might not know of their depression unless somebody from the schools tells you, because you might have to put an extra eye on that particular person coming and going.
Well, all right, yeah, but we also have we have psychological help, and people. There are people in the HSAB who do this, psychiatrists and psychologists who provide help and assistance. And if we thought there was a problem, we've given it over to the authorities. They're very conscientious about their duties, and they provide the help and the work. And sometimes, unfortunately, they have to leave, and then they do.
Right.
But those are extremely rare occurrences.
But looking at the overall terrorism today, and where people choose to be a terrorist, I was in chemical warfare during my time at the service down in Edgewood Army Chemical Center, where all of the biological things were done, warfare and things like this, But people can do anything, can walk in here with anything. And so I can imagine, I'm talking about just a test tube of anything to cause a problem. And you not even recognize this kind of thing. Does that come into your surveillance, or do you handle that in any kind of way? Or is that just
it's something that's always on your mind.
Yes.
But we work, we test and we drill with epidemiology. With the hospital, with the people at the research center and the school, and without specifics, we look at these scenarios that are, and we've done tabletops and drills on these things. We look for these, and we train our people. We have a regular training schedule for all of our people, police officers and security people all the way along, where we provide them with this information and we show them what to look for.
Right, yeah.
We even have physical fitness lessons where we teach them boxing.
I see, right. Right.
But it's always a concern. It's always a concern.
All right.
But at the same time, we can't close our life off and say.
Of course not.
I think I'm safe in saying that the community itself is the best protection against this type of action.
Sure.
We are a hospital. We provide community service to an ever expanding community.
Right, surely.
The the United States has been very fortunate since 9/11 in being able to short-circuit these types of terrorist attacks, because there were people who were here that develop rapidly that mentality of justice and honor, and they're willing to share the information with others against other people who they perceive as a threat, because if they're a threat to me, they're a threat to you, they're a threat to anybody. Nothing is 100%, however.
No.
And that's why we concentrate on.
Well, I look at, for example, when you come out the main entrance on Clark's, not the main entrance of the hospital on Clarkson Avenue, where the taxi cab drivers are at.
Right.
You know, they could be a great source of information about who's thinking. Sometime to
Yes.
be, let's put it this, to be friendly with your officers or with the security here, to say, come in and say, I understand this or that.
Well, we deal with them on a regular basis, and we have
good.
and we have a positive relationship. I understand the need for the dollar cabs.
Right.
People need transportation, and public transportation may not always be available, and there are the community needs these, and this is why I look at these people and I say, okay, they fill a need in the community. At the same time, I talk to them regularly about, I don't want them accosting the elderly and the women as they come in and out of the place looking for a ride. They're always trying to drum up business, and they understand that if they act reasonably, there's plenty for everybody.
Yeah, surely.
And,
well, that's a wonderful attitude. That's what I sense in you. You know, I mean, I've been here seeing you all these years myself, and I really sense that you have that kind of disposition to deal with people.
Thank you.
You know,
I try.
Oh yeah, well, it's nothing like a smile or a good laugh.
No,
you know?
It isn't. And to be able to look someone in the eye and say good morning or good afternoon.
Yeah.
Again, we're back to the civility. We're back to manners. Sure. Manners and civility go a long way in the community. At home.
Oh yeah.
How you speak to your mother, how you speak to your father.
Surely.
How do you speak to your teachers in school go a long way in how you are going to.
Of course, well,
advance and achieve.
Sure. Just like on the police cars where they have the three things on the side of the car. I'm sure that they have all been to classes to recognize each of those.
Absolutely.
One of those things.
Right.
Each of those things, you know, professionalism. And
respect.
Respect, you know, yeah.
You got to give respect to get respect.
It goes a long way. But I would say that as we stand here today, or in the new era of terrorism and things like this, is there anything that you're upgrading? I guess the officers are constantly being upgraded about things like this.
All right, we have installed at the entrances various monitors, other than the guard and the photography, which we have at every location in the hallways. We're expanding. We've installed monitors for other threats, which are not. I don't really wish to discuss,
no, of course not, no.
But we have monitors to know what's coming in and what's going out.
Yes.
And in the we've expanded the patrol area around the building to 3 or 4 blocks in all directions. We've, as you know, we're growing. You can see that we're growing and expanding. Sure.
What about the community itself? I'm talking about the persons coming forth from subway to hospital and things like this. Now that's another big area.
Right. Well, we patrol that, and we provide security. Yes, the people who use that, we have a shuttle service. You know, we have the shuttle service, and I'm very active. We push. We want people to use the shuttle service to the subways, to the transportation hubs, and the parking lots, because it's in their best interest and our best interest at the same time to provide them with this type of security. The community is. We're located in a Caribbean community of basically one-family homes and people who have They want the same as everybody else. They
That's
want to
right.
live their life, raise their children.
And safety.
And
They want
safety and peace. So
and they're almost glad to have your extended safety right there.
we work on that. We
That's
try to. We encourage the people
Sure.
in the community to
Sure.
come to us, and if we can help.
Well,
The
I'll tell you-
local religious leaders.
Yes, oh yes. Big
Excellent
time.
sources of community involvement.
Sure.
And once the community knows that we're there, we're not
Right.
there as a, we're just not going to grab the money and run.
Well, I'll tell you, my friend, you're doing a magnificent job here, and I'm so glad to have you on the program. We'll bring you back periodically to update our people on what we're doing in security here.
Okay.
And so it's just lovely to have you here. But more than that, it's good for folks to know that their safety is being regarded at all times when they get to this
We do.
hospital
We
or
do.
this school.
We do.
And to have a person like yourself with that smile on your face, because I see you often going down the hall with a smile too, so that all makes a difference.
It does.
And it's just so good having you on the program today.
Thank you very
know,
much,
and,
Dr. Deas. It's
and
always
we-
a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah,
you
well,
know
I'll
that.
tell you, we come out of that same mold, you know. I guess I'm a little older than that mold, but here we are.
Many times we've sat there, we stood there in the hallway and talked,
Talked, that's right.
and talked along the line, and that's.
You're safe when you come to Downstate Medical Center. We got a great security force here around the area, right to the place where you get your transportation to coming into the hospital. See you next time.